A great pleasure to be here today, and we really appreciate your presence to listen to these wonderful pitches that have been incubating for the last 8 weeks in our creative home in Stanford in the Western Cape. Before we start, I just wanted to briefly update you about everything that Realness is being busy with. We have grown a lot in the last 3 years. We went from being a screenwriter's residency that ran annually into 6 fully fledged multidisciplinary Pan-African training programs. Thank you. I'm going to start with the Locarno Southern Africa Industry Academy, which is catering to programmers, distributors, and exhibitors. We have a group of 9 wonderful women who are partaking in this program this year and who are in the room. Would you guys please just stand up very quickly for some visibility? We also run something called Episodic Lab and Development Executive Traineeship in partnership with Netflix. And that's both a content incubator for series, and I hope you guys can join tomorrow at 2:30. We have 8 episodic concepts pitching on the same stage at 11:30 in the morning. Please note the printed program has the wrong time. It says 10:30, but the correct time tomorrow is 11:30. So together with the content incubator, we're also developing story experts. And a very beautiful story is that Thandeka Zwana, who is our mentor for the 2022 and 2023 lab, was actually one of the development executives who trained with us on the first year of the program. We also run the Authentica Lab, which is done in partnership with Swiss Philanthropy, and we take 4 writers into a 6-month incubator that climaxes at Series Mania with a public pitch. I'm very happy to report that all 4 projects that pitched at Series Mania this year have moved business and are in further development with active partners. And we run Creative Producers in Daba, which is forming producers and leaders across the African continent and the diaspora. We do that in partnership with the Rotterdam Film Festival as well as EAVI. And that's it. And our flagship and the genesis of everything else, our beloved Screenwriters Residency, it's running for the 7th edition. My co-founder, partner in crime, co-creator, superstar producer, Cait Pansegrouw, is the lead mentor and producer on that program. She works together with Selina Ukwoma and Thandeka Zwana. And she will introduce to you our 5 writers for this year.
Thanks, everybody. Can everyone hear me well? Great. Thanks, Elias. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cait Pansegrouw. I'm a co-founder of the Realness Institute, and I'm very fortunate to be the creative producing mentor of the Realness African Screenwriters Residency. The residency is dedicated to supporting and nurturing distinct voices from Africa and her diaspora. Now in its 7th edition, it has fostered 48 feature films from 21 countries, perhaps most notably Lemohang Jeremiah Mosese's Sundance winner, This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection. This year, we welcomed authors from Gabon, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa, and I am thrilled to introduce you to them and their projects today. Just days ago, these artists completed 7 weeks of intense creative incubation under the mentorship of story consultants and my much-loved colleagues, Selina Ukwoma and Thandeka Zwana. These projects are in early development, and this is the very first time that they are being publicly presented, so please meet them with warmth and care. If you're interested in meeting with our residents, please look out for our teammates that are putting their hands up there at the back. They can help you matchmake, and to learn more about Realness Institute, please visit us at our stand at H1 to 16, and you can grab a free mint. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge and express my sincere gratitude to our 2023 cohorts for trusting Realness with your stories, for your hard work, and for your passion. I'm very proud of you. Now it's my great pleasure to hand over to Babalwa Baitman, who will transport us to the Eastern Cape with her Noir musical Iziko. Molosis.
Molweni, molweni. Can everyone hear me? Okay, goes. My name is Babalwa Bartman, and I'm a Cape Town-based writer and creative producer. My first feature film, which I co-wrote and co-produced with my collaborator Jenna Bass, titled Umlungu Wam, and also known as Good Madam, premiered at the Toronto International Festival at the Platform Prize competition in 2021. Eziko is my second feature and will be my solo writing debut. You are a great crowd. So 30 years into our democracy, I believe it is probably safe to say that we have not yet reached the promised land. It feels like we are stuck in transition and we've been roaming the desert for 30 years. Only we have been cursed into believing that this desert is our promised land. Weziko is a story for women navigating this plague land on a daily basis. And we see this through the relationship, or rather the two sisters, Unzundukazi and Nomkita, needing to find their way back to each other. So after the passing of her mother, 34-year-old academic Unzundukazi, based in Cape Town, decides to relocate to Ghana. And while tying up loose ends, she discovers that the sister she believed to have been abducted 30 years ago was in fact married off through the custom of Ugutwala, which is a forced marriage, and her father had consented to the union. A devastated Nzundukazi rushes off to the Eastern Cape to confront her estranged rural family, and this is where she learns that her sister Unomkita was taken by the Nyembezi clan in rural Mbondoland in the wild coast of the Eastern Cape. Bent on revenge, Nzundukazi travels to this village with the clear aim to rescue her sister, Unomkita. So this is now the height of the December festive season, and in the rural Eastern Cape, this is a time for ceremonial celebrations. Everywhere you go, there is something happening. We've got weddings, lobola negotiations, young boys going to the bush for initiation. It's a time where celebrations are common and music is abound, particularly the sound of igwijo, which is the call and response traditional music. It can feel like you have stepped into a traditional, a cultural musical, and every song that you hear will give you a very clear indication of which ceremony is happening where. And it is here that you find what I consider to be a traditional space for women called Eziko. At first sight, it looks just like a kitchen, but when you enter the space, it is where all the secrets of our mothers are kept. After being met with resistance from the community, Unzundukazi decides to use Eziko and take advantage of its rules of hospitality, where you cannot turn away the helping hands that are always ready to peel potatoes and carrots. She uses the space as a way of soliciting information from the women of the village so that it can lead her to her sister, Unomkita. After being met with rejection over and over again, she traces the stonewalling of the community to the aloof and respected matriarch, Unomvuzo. And after trying for some time, she finally manages to corner Unomvuzo and confront her, interrogating her and blaming her for the disappearance of her sister and her sister's suffering, Unomkita. And this is where Unzundukazi is faced with a rather complex revelation that the woman who stands before her is in fact her sister, Unomkita. And she has to come to terms with the fact that the sister that she lost 30 years ago will never be, and she has to accept the sister that stands in front of her, Unomvuzo. So at the core of it, Eziko is a story about healing and growth. Nzundukazi's tumultuous journey threatens the very delicate walls built by the women that come before her. Where the cracks are held together by lamination, and she refuses to accept that sanity is silencing the forever cracking walls, and accepting that this is the way that things should be. I think it's very important for me to illustrate that this really is a story of healing. It's a story that's inspired by the 4 generations of matriarchs that raised me and the role in which they have played in my life. I envision this film as a collaboration and conversation with partners that have an appreciation for this world and its nuances and its intricacies, and would want to approach the storytelling by being vulnerable with the most beautiful and uncomfortable aspects of this world, but treat it with grace and dignity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Nkosi Babalwa. Could you tell us about your personal connection to the story and why you feel called to tell it now?
I mean, it's a story that's inspired by voices of women that I know. Like I said, I'm someone who comes from 4 generations of matriarchs. But even outside of that, you know, like new voices that really inspire me, like Omlilo Mbondo and Onewo. Women that are really ready to like scream and, you know, like shut shit down is what inspires me to tell stories and to be in this industry. To give room for stories that feel like they harbor pain. And since we are in a time of aspirational storytelling, they can feel like they are threatening something, but these are the most beautiful stories where we don't see something we aspire to, but we find the beauty in who we are and who we've always been, quite frankly. I think what I love about the Eastern Cape and traveling back home is that you get to see women that are very comfortable in their skin. Even though people that look from the outside might want to see them as victims, they are very self-assured and know exactly who they are. And I think that's the best part about being in the space of Eziko, is that it does not judge, it has no hierarchy, but we all know each other's secrets, and if someone wanted to, they could put you in your place. And I've always loved observing how women from where I come from navigate the space, and how so much can be said without even uttering a word. And also just showcasing that the rules, you know, of where I come from, and how we can also be complicit in manipulating and breaking the rules, you know, that we are protective of to serve our own purpose. Yeah, I mean, I hope that answers the question, but I think it really is, it is a time to explore many voices, you know. And what I love about telling stories about women is that there's so many stories to tell. There's so many ways in which we can approach the way in which we tell ourselves. And we throw around representation a lot, but if we're only gonna aspire for aspirational storytelling, then we are doing the very same thing of neglecting important women that we see every day, and we don't want to see them on the screen because they potentially remind us of a painful past. And I think we need to trust ourselves with our stories, that we are gonna honor our own pain and our own traumas with grace and dignity, because they are our stories. So, yeah.
All right, we're now off to Nigeria to learn about Michael Omono's satirical drama, Galatians.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Omonua. I am a film director and screenwriter based in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, I grew up in a very religious household. Nightly prayers around the bed, Bible school every Sunday. And when I was slightly older, my mother took me with her to her church in Lagos, essentially. I was called up onto the stage and given the divine touch by the pastor on the forehead. But being confused and a little overwhelmed in the moment, I forgot to faint. And at that moment, the pastor grabbed my forehead really hard, squeezed, and brought me down to my knees. It was on the way home, I said to my mother, my forehead really hurts. And she said, good, you know, it's your fault. You should have fainted. You were being stubborn. And this got me thinking about the symbiotic relationship between the audience and the pastor on stage. And I started to draw parallels between church and theater. And I decided to explore these ideas in a short film called Rehearsal, which had its world premiere at the Berlinale Shorts in 2021. Thank you. I decided to expand on these ideas and expand on the short film with this project that I'm presenting today, Galatians. Now, Marie finds herself in a very similar situation that I was in, only she's in secondary school and she's been given the divine touch by the school pastor, and she hasn't fainted. And as a result, she's punished by the school. It's back at home where she complains about this to her theater director, Mother Mama, who, to her surprise, sides with the school. This disagreement over authenticity becomes a major bone of contention between Mary and her mother. 6 years pass. A university strike has forced Marie back home into assisting her mother at her theater company. Now, mother's theater company operates now clandestinely as a service provider helping churches stage miracle healings. It's a very lucrative and successful business that she's running. And she's approached by a wealthy investor who wants in on this action. So he decides to launch his own church under Mama's guidance. With investment secured, Mama looks for her pastor, and she holds auditions and finds the actor Julius, who she casts in the role. And after a series of well-crafted miracle healings and captivating exorcisms, this church sees explosive growth. Now, Marie brushes aside her ethical concerns with the church operation, hoping to maintain an emotional relationship with her mother. Now, as Julius' star grows, his ego grows as well to match it. This makes Mama struggle to control him, and greed and envy fuel their intense rivalry. Tragedy, however, strikes when Mama is diagnosed with glaucoma, threatening her eyesight. So she implores her daughter Marie to come take command of the church in her absence. Now in charge, Marie learns of a plot from Julius, which involves him looking to expose the church operation and paint himself a victim in order to gain his independence. Marie takes the initiative and fires him. Despite this, Julius forges ahead with the plan anyways. And this leads to one final showdown between himself and Mama, who has had to drag herself off her sickbed, but in her fragile state, she's unable to stop him, and she collapses. Recuperating in hospital, Mama explains to Mary, or suggests to her rather, that her failure with the church was as a direct result of failing to factor Julius's ego into her equation. It is at this point that we break the fourth wall and reveal this hospital room to be a set on a theater stage. As Marie counters her mother's point, explaining to her that, in fact, the stage is everywhere, and going forward, they'll be best served trusting no one.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike, what is it that you want to say about religion with your film?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm looking to explore the performative side of all religions, or just the idea that anytime you're on stage, there's a performative aspect to it. And also just looking to explore authenticity in those moments in truth. You know, if you are on stage and you are giving a sermon, how much truth is in that moment, right? I remember my mother telling me that all Bible stories should be taken literally as a matter of fact. These things happened. And a religious studies teacher saying, oh no, well, you know, you don't necessarily have to take them literally. You can sort of glean meaning from the stories themselves. So I guess that's kind of like the sort of two things that I'm really looking at in the feature.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We'll now travel to the mountains of Lebanon to hear about Shadi Zenedin's coming-of-age story. This is what they call us.
Thank you, Cait, and thank you, Realness, actually, for allowing us to explore the universes, our own universes, and being here today. So thank you, everyone, also for coming. I'm a bit stressed because usually I'm sitting on the other side because I support and fund films. So now I'm happy to be back in director's chair. So thank you for this opportunity. So my name is Shadi Zenedin. I was born and raised in Gabon, and my parents are originally from Lebanon. And this is my second feature. My first feature, Falling from Earth, had a great festival tour, going to Rotterdam, Dubai, New York, and Tokyo, among other great festivals. And later on, I took a break. I took a break to find money and to survive this industry that is always so demanding for us. But that break served me because I grew up and I became someone different, and that's why I think I'm ready to tell this new story. Thank you. So this is what they call us, is a mystical coming-of-age drama. Mystical because I was born in a religion called Druze. It's a religion that believes in reincarnation. It's actually one of its main foundations. And I myself, I recalled my past life. I even took my parents to my old home. And I know those are, stories that are a bit unsettling, but they're very true. And this notion of reincarnation, even as an artist, helped me play with the notion of time. What is time and what time means. And a coming-of-age drama, because when I was growing up, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I am. Like, I was afraid of my sexuality, and even I didn't know the word gay existed in my words. So the fear that grew up of coming out, of being myself, was always in regards to my parents and my brothers and sisters. I was always afraid to lose their love if I am who I am. So the film deals with those two notions of love and time. So here we go. Omar, 17, lives in a Druze village in the mountains of Lebanon. He's spending his last summer before going to art school. Everything changes when Walid, a Syrian orphan refugee, comes to the village. He's fleeing the war and the military service, which is mandatory over there. With nowhere to stay, Omar's family welcomes Walid into their home while he waits for his paperwork, because like many refugees, usually they wait maybe for a chance to go to Europe. But from the first moment Walid and Omar met each other, they felt something like a sense of familiarity, a déjà vu, something they couldn't explain in this moment. As summer goes on, their friendship grows, and they actually experience love for the first time. A very innocent love, yet forbidden by religion, tradition, and society. Omar eventually starts remembering his past, and he gets convinced that him and Walid were actually secret lovers in war-torn Iraq previously, or in a past life. Okay, I'm said it twice, but it's okay. Please bear with me. Okay, I lost my thought now. It will come back. So.
Okay.
Amen, help me! I'm getting there. So anyways, what happens next, actually, Omar gets excited because, he feels that they need to fulfill their destiny, maybe run away together, they're teenagers, so they have no idea of what can happen next, so they want to believe they can make it happen. Walid, on the contrary, he's entertained by the idea, but he knows his true reality, that also he doesn't have a legal status in the country. So when his visa is approved and he can go to Norway, Walid takes a very tough decision because he loves Omar, but he knows that this is gonna go nowhere in this situation. So he ends up breaking up with him. And even he goes further, like any teenager at this moment, he tells him that he doesn't believe in reincarnation or all those supernatural stories he's been telling him. Heartbroken and even feeling betrayed, Omar casts him out of the house. So Walid finds himself again without a home, without even a second family that he thought during that summer was possible. When seeing Omar's pain and sadness, it's the first time that the family actually comes together. So by losing the love of Walid, he was able to open up to his family, and each one of us open up, and even with their flaws, they understand each other, at least for that moment. And in the last moment of the film, while Walid's plane is about to take off, this triggers him to go back to the past, and for the first time, he recalls his past. He recalls the first day when he met Omar in war-torn Iraq. And he realizes that Omar was right all along the way, that love is possible across time and space. Thank you. I got stressed.
Shadi, as you said, you've been on the other side of the industry for a very long time, but we're very happy to have you on this side. Tell us what it was about the story that brought you back to the director's chair.
The truth is, it took me time to come out, to myself even, not even to anyone else. I didn't, I was always afraid of the word gay. Like, especially my generation, I'm 44, so I'm not that young anymore, but still, I have 40
Young
years
at
to
heart.
go. Yeah, young at heart. But I mean, it was a struggle for us, and we never had also like a good representation. So I couldn't understand back then, like if I say to my parents or if like what's happening to me, they would not understand. I would be rejected. And all the films or everything that was done around gay, it was always a cliche. So I didn't find any place for me to be. So when I came up to my father, not a long time ago, but like maybe 8 years ago, he's a typical Orientalist, you know, he's very like tough and every cliche you can have, he had it. But he had a great heart, and I was so surprised by all the love he had. He was really, I felt the unconditional love. I felt like completely like one of the most beautiful time in my life was this specific moment. And when I came out and I understand who I am and the way I can deal with love, you know, I decided that I should be brave enough, you know, and tell that story for other kids to see that this is possible in Lebanon, in Gabon, in so many other countries that we are still struggling. Because representation matters. It does. So the word gay is important. So I'm going through it.
Thank you, Shadi. Thanks, guys. Now going to bring to the stage our last two family members. And we're now going to learn about another coming-of-age tale, this time from Ghana, as we hear about Amarte Amar's Ever Young.
Wait. No claps for Ghana? Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. I hope you guys can hear me. Yes? Okay, my name is Amarte Amar, and I'm a Ghanaian American writer and director currently based in Accra, Ghana. As you can probably guess, or you will come to guess, that I did most of my formal upbringing and education in North America. And growing up identifying as a third culture kid, I've always been drawn particularly to the stories of the diaspora and those of us who feel we're often existing in the fringes of society. Shortly after completing university, I decided to permanently relocate to Ghana, and is where I've made several short films. The most recent one, Chuchue, was selected or was a part of the official selection at the Cannes Film Festival just last year in 2022. A proud first. There we go. Now we got the love from Ghana. All right. It was a proud first for us as well. And I feel that with all of my films, I'm on this never-ending search to better understand my own heritage, and more importantly, I feel explore the role that we, the diaspora, can play in creating both space and meaning in the countries of our origin. With the generous support of the Realness Institute, I feel like I've finally gathered the courage to turn the camera back around on myself and directly confront my own struggles of having a transnational identity. At its core, I believe that this is what Ever Young is about. So, we start with Juliana Makwate, a mixed-race American photographer who travels back to Accra in the wake of her Ghanaian father's death. Inheriting his old bungalow, she discovers her late father's obsession with the fall of the Pan-African dream through old newspaper clippings and manuscripts found locked away in his private study. But it's in an old dormitory school trunk that she happens upon these striking and beautiful black and white photographs and undeveloped negatives taken by her grandpa Augustus. Eager to reconnect with him after so many years, she seeks him out in his quaint little home. And upon meeting him, their relationship, she can tell that it's going to be strained because at the age of 85, her grandpa has lost his ability to both speak and understand English. So she's forced to communicate with him solely through his rather intimidating caretaker, Enyonam, who quite frankly just sees Juliama as another privileged expat with only one convenient foot in the country. So she weaponizes her use and proficiency with the local Ghanaian languages to further isolate Juliama from her own kin. But all this does is strengthen her resolve to know more about her roots. But she also has another problem as well, because in order to even access those memories, she must first develop the photograph, the negatives, and to turn them into photographs that will spark her grandpa's fading memories. Frequenting a lot of the art spaces that you can find today in Accra, she gathers the tools necessary to build her very own darkroom, and with the help of kindred spirit Kojo X, a UK-born Ghanaian musician, together they developed these photographs, and it's through them we're able to go into the past. It's a nostalgic night in 1960 Accra, where Grandpa Augustus, known affectionately as Augie by his high school friends, sneaks out with them to have one last wild ride before they depart for university abroad. Involving a series of, I would say, musical riddles, they cruise around the streets of Accra in search of an infamous Ghanaian high life musical concert hidden away in a secret location. With each of these memories that we go into the past, we also kind of start to realize that in the present, Grandpa Augustus' health begins to wane. And this distresses both Juliama and Enyonam, who begin to develop a bond in their efforts to keep him alive at all costs. But unfortunately, it's to no avail, and Grandpa Augustus, with his final dying breaths, entrusts Enyonam with the last and final conclusion of that one seminal night in his youth. In the newfound sisterhood, Enyonam takes it upon herself to craft her own reinterpretation of that story of that Grandpa told her, with the hope that Juliama would find inspiration and take meaning in carrying forth her grandfather's legacy. As for Juliama, who's now found herself in Ghana's history, fallen in love with its present, she decides to remain in the country indefinitely and embrace what that future has to offer. Thank you.
Tay, I think it's fair to say that in your previous work, you've always kept yourself at a certain distance from your characters.
Ladies and gentlemen, the musique s'appartient. Please make your way to the Orchid Conference Room on platoon.
It's like the Oscars. Well,
Featuring youngsters please make your way to the Orchid Conference Room on level 2.
okay. It's like the Oscars where we just carry on with the music playing. Okay, Tay, so you've always kept yourself at a certain distance from your characters in your previous work. Tell us what compelled you, what is it about Ever Young that compelled you to turn the camera back on yourself?
Well, if I want to get vulnerable with you all tonight, I think for me, it's facing the deep insecurity I have of losing my father, because him being Ghanaian, through him, I feel like he's played such an important role in sort of giving me any sort of authority and any sort of linkage back to the continent directly. With my mom and my brother and I sort of really living the Black American experience and all the complexities that live with that. You know, with him, we as a family, we were able to have a direct link and to feel like we belong and that we have a heritage that we can cling on to and we can sort of be proud of. And I think today a lot of us, whether Black American or American Africans, we all feel that there's a need, and I've seen it myself living in Ghana for so long, this mass repatriation to the countries of our origin and wanting to sort of take up the dreams that our forefathers and our mothers had. And for me, I just want to do that now and to really confront those, the struggles of it and demystify what it's like to actually go back to the country and to the continent and just sort of know what that's like to just embrace it and to live it and to live your truth as well. So that's pretty much it.
We're now going to finish off at home in Cape Town with Chantal Clark's horror, Pale Faces.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for staying and hearing us out. My name is Chantal Clark, and I'm a South African screenwriter and director. I'm presenting today my feature debut, Pale Faces, the original title, Wit Gesigte, which is being developed with the support of the Sundance Institute, Realness, of course, and also the Gotham. I'm Cape Town born and raised, and I'm pretty sure if you've had a chance to spend some time in our city that you'll agree with me, it's one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. But all of this beauty hides an equal amount of darkness in our history. And it's this contrast that was really the inspiration for me for Pale Faces, and it's a project that combines two of my passions, history and horror. Pale Faces is set in the Cape Colony in the late 18th century, at a time when the Dutch East India Company is starting to lose their domination of global trade routes. At this point, they've been colonizing the Cape for almost 150 years, and in this time, they've turned it into a cesspool of violence, corruption, and genocide. And it's here that Abiona lives relatively secluded from Dutch scrutiny. Her father, who is an imam exiled from the Dutch East Indies to the Cape, has created a refuge for the Islamic community here, a place of safety for fellow exiles and those enslaved by the Dutch. Abiona serves as her father's brilliant and trusted scribe, and she's almost too brilliant for her time. When her family is celebrating the wedding of her beautiful younger sister, the governor of the Cape sees this as a direct violation of the ban on publicly practicing Islam, and her father is immediately arrested and imprisoned on Robben Island without trial. Shortly afterwards, her mother, who's a local woman of noble Khoi lineage, dies of grief, and her sister escapes back to Indonesia on a boat with her new husband. And soon after these tragic events, the governor sends his officers to terrorize what's left of the community, causing them to split up for safety. Abiona, with no family left, enters the service of a mysterious Dutch officer, the widower Van Thiel, who lives at the boundaries of the estate and who she believes has some influence with the Dutch governor. But she soon comes to learn that Van Thiel is cursed by an illness that requires him to drink human blood. Abiona believes, however, that he can be seduced into pleading her father's case, and in exchange for his help, she makes a kind of pact with him to feed him her stories of her heritage, that she believes might hold the key to the cure for this curse. But the longer Abiona spends with Van Thiel, the more she realizes that she's not just helping him find a cure, he actually sees her as part of the cure, that he regards her as a missing piece of a puzzle, and that if he can in some way capture her innocence, he can save his soul from damnation. But even as these dark secrets of Van Thiel's begin to unravel, Abiona finds herself increasingly drawn to him and enjoying the power she seems to have over this man, his infatuation with her, and the thrill of taming the beast. But one night, Van Thiel loses control over his thirst for blood, and Abiona realizes that the only way she can free herself from his grip is to slay the beast. And so she tells one final story to lure him across the desert in search of this cure to weaken him. But Abiona underestimates how arduous this journey is going to be, and it leads her to the brink of her own death. The only way to save her is for Van Thiel to turn her into a creature like himself by feeding him her sorry. So much blood. Blood here, blood there. By feeding her his own blood. But Abiona, when she wakes, refuses to make this full transition. She will not feed off human blood. And so she's doomed to live this half-life as a ghost in her own land. It's a little afternoon ghost story. I couldn't think of a more appropriate monster to embody colonialism than the vampire. It's a perversion of humanity that quite literally survives by sucking the life force out of other living beings. And the vampire, like the colonizer, is a creature that lives to abuse and consume. I'm sure many of you know, in South Africa, we've been plagued by the curse of the vampire's insatiable thirst for over 350 years. And when I write about this curse, when I think about this curse, it's impossible for me to separate myself from it. I am the curse, and the curse is mine. And so it was this inspiration that laid the groundwork for me wanting to tell a story of South Africa's original sin, using the Dutch Cape Colony as the site of the Garden of Eden. And despite our country's role in one of the most shameful periods in global history, this specific period of South African history is not one that's very often recognized or spoken about in South Africa, despite the fact that around Cape Town, you can see it lurking in every foundation, in every corner of our city, from the sprawling winelands to our absolutely breathtaking mountain passes, and here in the city center, from the slave lodge to the company's garden itself. And this is a garden crawling with vampires.
Thank you, Chantal. Tell us about your vampires. What can we expect?
Thank you for that question, Cait, because you know I love vampires. And I think I've seen almost every possible iteration of a vampire that there is to see on screen, but I wanted to create a vampire myth that is very rooted in our local mythology and speaks very much to the conditions here. So instead of creating what we're used to seeing as a Western vampire, and that doesn't mean we're not going to have recognizable parts of the vampire, like obviously the eroticism, the bloodlust, and the kind of rules by which the vampire is bound to nature. But it was that focus on nature that I really wanted to highlight with the vampires in Pale Faces, because I think attaching them to the land in this kind of symbiotic curse where the land essentially tried to expel them by putting this curse of having to drink blood on them, thinking that they wouldn't be able to stomach it, that they wouldn't be able to go through it. And what happened, and I think this is where the analogy for colonialism really comes in, is we sort of underestimated just how evil they could be, just how far they could push their souls, just how ready they were to almost take on damnation in order to feed. And so, yeah, our vampires in Pale Faces are very much connected to the land and to the story of South Africa as it pertains to land itself. And the other thing I wanted to do was create a world in which it's almost like the more versions of the story that there are, the more true it makes the story. So also weaving in existing vampire mythology, such as Impundulu, which is also a great imagery and a great history of our local mythology. So yeah, it's all of those things.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming, and I please invite a very warm round of applause for our residents. Come guys. Come up here and give us one last bow.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, writers, for sharing your stories with us. I just wanted to highlight one more thing. Realness has also curated the short film showcase that Fame Week is showing at the Labia from the 7th to the 9th. And I'd like to invite Liz Ishimwe, who is an alumna of the Industry Academy program in its first edition. She also runs her own shorts program in Brussels for many years. She's originally from Rwanda and a programmer at the Rotterdam International Film Festival. And she's played the role of artistic director for our wonderful cohort who is doing Industry Academy this year.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you so much for these great pitches. So together with the Salia group, we've been working really hard to curate a 3-day short film program. So it's going to be on the 7th, 8th, and 9th, so this weekend. I think there's information about the program somewhere in the bags. So the 32 films in the program. We have films from everywhere, from Senegal, from Kenya, from UK, from US as well. Some of the films have never been screened before in Cape Town, but some have been. They've traveled to Encounters, for example. So please do join us. Give it, short films are kind of the beginning of filmmakers' careers. And they don't always get the shine that they need, so please do come out and support the program. Thank you very much.
So here's the info. On this QR code, you find the entire program and you can book tickets. If you need to book a meeting with our writers who just pitched, our team is around. Sheila, Thad, where are you? Are you around? Maybe not. But you've probably seen the very big stand at that corner over there for the Realness Institute. So just come over and we'll facilitate matchmaking. Thank you to everybody for coming. And please don't forget to join us tomorrow for the episodic concepts at 11:30 MIP2. Thank you.